Hello, welcome to Spiritual Breakfast. I'm your host, Jen Weir, and today we're going to bring just a few little nuggets from Scripture to help nourish your spirit. We spend so much time investing in our soul health and our flesh health that we rarely in today's day dive in and really make sure that our spirits are prospering. So we are doing a part 2 from the last Spiritual Breakfast in Matthew 22, verses 36 through 40. Jesus is being asked by a lawyer what is the greatest commandment? And he says this. I'll read it today in the NASB version. 36. The lawyer says this, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" He's trying to trap him, by the way. And Jesus says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend the whole law and the prophets." And so last time on Spiritual Breakfast, we talked about what does it mean to love your neighbor? What did Jesus mean by that? And how does that sum up the whole law? We just kind of touched on it, and I hope and pray that you went back and looked at the scriptures in Leviticus and looked at the 10 Commandments in Exodus so that you can really grasp the fullness of what Jesus is saying. Also, maybe you dove in to see who is my neighbor. But today I want you to think about what does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself? You see, we cannot love our neighbor as ourselves if we don't love ourselves. There's an enemy of your soul, an enemy of your spirit. See, he can't, once you know Jesus the Messiah, once you say yes to him and give your life over as a born again believer, he cannot take your spirit. He can't even take your soul to hell. But he can do his level best to make your life a living hell here on earth. And many times, especially for women, that looks like not liking themselves. And so I'll ask you this. Can you look in a mirror right now and can say, "This is fearfully and wonderfully made. Look at this. Look what you did, God." Can you do that? Can you honestly have a really good look in the mirror and say, yeah, I love myself so much that I feed my body what it needs, that I get enough sleep, that I drink enough water, that I really care for my flesh and my soul so that I, in a tangible way that's like, yeah, I love me. Do you love everything about you, the way that you speak, your voice, the way that God made you? Do you love your eyes, your nose, your mouth? Do you love your body shape? You see, when you do that, when you understand what it means to fully love yourself, you're able then to go and love your neighbor. If you don't love you, how in the world can you ever expect to fully love your neighbor? It's just not a thing. Jesus said, it's in red. If you have a red letter Bible, it's in red. He doesn't, I think so many times we say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, yada, 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 and then love your neighbor as yourself. We just sort of like trail off at the self. But few people ask, what does it mean to love me? It's a question for today that I'm praying that you dive into. I don't know what that looks like for you. My job here is to open the scriptures and say, hey, here's a challenge. Do you love yourself? Is your soul prospering? If you don't know the answer to that, or maybe you're like, you know what, I'm not sure if I love me. It's probably time to do some deep dive and sit before the Lord and say, how do I love myself? Because again, I'll say it again and again. If you don't love yourself, you cannot love your neighbor. And here's what'll happen is rather than just pouring out love, like pouring out this love that you have received from the Father, you will be a constant taker and you'll be looking to other people to fill your need to love you, to love me because I don't love me. Does that make sense? I know and pray that it does. I know that the Spirit is speaking to your heart right now. So love your neighbor as yourself, but first, love yourself. And as I've been discussing valor, all day long, valor. It's an essential oil that every home needs. And I don't even care whatever oil company you use, if you buy it at the market or if you have some company that you subscribe to. Valor, it needs to be your oil if you plan on having the courage to look in the mirror and say, I need to love me. Lord, show me how to do that. You're going to need valor over your shoulders, down your spine to strengthen yourself, to give you a spine of steel so that you have the boldness to go out and love your neighbor after you figure out what it means to love yourself. In the comments below, I have a link to some courses that I do to help you love yourself again. I hope you'll take me up on that offer and really dive in and ask the Lord, how do I love myself today? We'll see you next time on Spiritual Breakfast.